Welcome and welcome back. They have finally given us the entire board. And man, there is a lot that we could talk about here, but I think I'll just talk about them as we go through the path. We can talk through some of the decision making that we're going to have as we play GridMaster. So let's jump right into it. First things first, this is kind of like top level a task path for you. So if you're already in the throes of GridMaster and you just need something as a quick reference, you can pause right here. The way that this is read is left to right, top to bottom. So you'd start up here with the tutorial, go all the way to the right, and then down to the next row once it's finished. I've also got a couple of tasks out here to the side, which are optional pickups as you're going through, but we'll talk about that a little bit more as I dive into it further. So this is what the easy stuff is looking like once you get everything on the board. You can see all of the tiles that we're going to have to do, all of the different rewards that we're going to get for those things. So let's talk through the easy part of the path. As I'm talking about each of these individual steps, I'm going to keep the section that we're in at the top so you can kind of track where you're at. Now, right out the gate, you're going to get to choose one of the gathering relics. And it doesn't really matter which one that you go towards. Lumberjack or Power Miner are going to be good because we've got two other tasks associated to them that we're going to work on. Sorry, Animal Wrangler. New trash can, I guess. I don't know, man. But you're going to kind of work your way through these. 45 woodcutting for maple logs, 40 mining for gold ore. And if you're a little bit worried about the travel time of getting to these things, you don't have to collect them quite yet. You can kind of skip over one of these. But one thing to keep in mind is if you're going to do that, one of the next tasks we're going to have is getting the boots from the Stronghold of Security. That's going to have our first teleport relic. So if you do skip over doing these tasks and you don't have Animal Wrangler, you may not have a lot of food. So some alternatives there would be get 5 thieving, run to Varrock, and thieve from the tea stall. Otherwise, if you're going to stick to the route that I'm giving you here, then you collect all these. You've got Animal Wrangler. Just go and get like 20 fishing. It'll bank a decent amount of cooked shrimp. Yeah, it's not great food, but at least you'll have food. Because there's probably not going to be a lot of people running through the Stronghold of Security. Once you've done that, you can get your way over to the Stronghold of Security. If you're still in Lumbridge, Count Check will let you do a teleport for free over to the Stronghold. Otherwise, you can run to Barbarian Village. Getting all the way to the bottom floor, don't worry, they've disabled like the questions that you'd have as you go through the different doorways. So you just have to kind of run through there, get to the center, and do that a couple of times. If you've got that food on you, you should survive. Be a little careful on the bottom floor. I don't think anything can one-shot you if you're at 10 HP, but they can hit pretty close to that. So it's a little risky, but I managed to survive myself going through with 10 HP. It was a little risky. If you want to see that, I've got my mini-series I'll be putting out, so I'm sure I'll have that linked at the end. Yeah. I almost died there. Would have been embarrassing. I didn't have food with me. Anyway, once you've got the Fairy Flight Relic, you do have to be in a bank to claim it, so you'll have to leave the Stronghold in order to pick it up. Kind of annoying. I digress, though. You can use CKQ to get down to this bar right here in Mistrock, just south of Alderan, and you'll be able to buy the Steamforge Brew. You should have cash on you because you already have the 10k from the Stronghold of Security. And that is going to give you the other teleport relic, which is Bank Heist. Once you've got that, use Bank Heist, teleport over to the Gnome Stronghold, go over to the Gnome Ball area, and you'll want to talk to the guy as you enter. He will give you a Gnome Ball that you can shoot. The guards can be really annoying, and they can, like, take the ball from you. If people don't know what they're doing, they can also take the ball from the guards, so you might have to talk with the entrance guy a couple of times to get yourself a Gnome Ball. Just try as best as you can to throw it at the goal that's at this end here. You don't need to run across the field in order to make it. You just have to take the shot. And once you've done that, you're going to be able to claim the Corner Cutter Relic. Now, there's a couple of things that this does. It allows you to not fail agility things. It allows you to get a little bit more GP out of certain agility things as well. But really, the big draw for this is you get to wear the boots, and it's just going to passively give you agility experience as you're running around. And while it's not a lot of agility experience, it'll help slowly over time, and there is a way that we can kind of get a little more value out of this, which I'll talk as we get into some of the later tasks. So you've done all 3 of those. You're chugging along, you're feeling powerful, got all this stuff available to you. Now we are headed off to the Gem Crab so we can get the Gatherer perk. And the easiest way for you at this point to get there is going to be doing a bank teleport via the Bank Heist item that you just got. out to the Tal Tekken Bank. And then if you run up to the north, the gem crab will either be here or you can go in the little cave that's right there and it will take you to the gem crab. There may not be a lot of people at the gem crab depending on when you're getting through this part of the route. And if there's not, that's fine. Attack the gem crab, stick to it for 10 minutes, and it'll burrow. If you're lucky, it might be close to done, and so you may not have to do it for the full 10 minutes. And if you're really lucky, I heard that if there's enough people on there, it gets a little bit, like, glitched out. It can finish really, really fast. That didn't happen for me, but who knows? Now, once you've completed this, you get the Gatherer's perk, and this is kind of like the first large decision that we're going to have to make. This is going to give an XP share between your choice of 3 of the skills over here. So mining, woodcutting, fishing, hunter, thieving, slayer, and agility. We got 7 to pick from, only 3 that we can pick. Now, of these, the gathering relics do a pretty good job on mining, woodcutting, and fishing, so I don't think you're going to get a lot of value out of picking those, which leaves these other 4 over here. Now, Slayer can be good as a bit of an early boost, and I know some folks have been talking about this, but I don't think it will make that big of a difference to you because you're not really going to need Slayer in the early levels. After you get the Fire Cape, you're going to get access to the Slayer Master perk. It's going to passively train up your Slayer a ton. You can go through and AoE things down, you can kill bosses. It applies to a lot of things, so you're going to get a lot of Slayer XP. One of the other things people were talking about is potentially using this to help rush the Moon's Quest, but they actually have a tile that's going to auto-complete the entirety of the Moon's quest line. So I don't think it's a good use here, which is why I think you're looking at these 3 skills: thieving, hunter, and agility. Now, hunter and thieving are going to be really powerful in GridMaster anyway, and this can help you also train up agility because there is going to be a high agility requirement on one of the tiles later on. So being able to have XP stacked up between these, thieving's pretty good early, kind of get you out of that early hunter, and then hunter becomes really good later, which can help you train up agility even more. Now, if you did end up taking some different things, your path is going to have to diverge a little bit. There is some flexibility in this plan, so don't sweat it too much if your choices are a little different than that. Now, next up, we have our thieving relic. They did add dodgy deals, which I am so happy to see again, because this gives you AFK, fail-free pickpocketing that's also AoE and notes everything that you get. It also works on stalls, but I don't think stalls will be that crazy in this game mode since we have so many powers available to us anyway. Now, in order to get this, you're going to have to steal from a fruit stall. Now, fruit stalls require 25 thieving, so however you're going to get this, you may already have a little bit of experience if you took the choices that I was talking about because you've got those agility boots on. They're slowly giving you a little bit of thieving XP, but even if you don't and you're level 1, you're able to just pickpocket men until level 5 and then use the T-stall in Varrock. From there until level 25, that'll probably be the fastest thing for you. Once you are at 25 thieving, teleport out to this Hosidius bank, and then there is a fruit stall that's right next to the bank, but it is guarded by a dog, so that might cause you some trouble. If you're having issues thieving it because the guard dog is on you, you can run a little bit farther, and there's 2 more fruit stalls that are in this building over here with nothing that'll attack you, so you're able to pick that up. Once you've done that, you get dodgy deals. Now your thieving is going to be super good. You can just stay there if you want to and work your way up because we are going to need level 50 thieving in order to do this next task. So fruit stalls are going to be really good XP. It's only going to take you a few minutes to get all the way up to 50. Once you do, you can teleport out to Civilis Illifortis West Bank. That's going to put you here. You're looking for a wealthy citizen to pickpocket. Now, there should be one wandering around somewhere outside the bank, but if you don't see him, you can run over to the square that's pretty close by over here to the east, and just pickpocket the wealthy citizens. You don't have to worry about the mechanic where they get distracted because you already don't fail, and you're looking for a house key. Once you do get a house key, you want to come into whichever house is currently closed on these little red squares here that I marked on the map. If that front door is locked, you know that that's the house. You only have to steal 1 valuable, so unless the NPC is coming back to these, which happens every couple of minutes, then you should be fine to just go in, steal 1, and then leave. You don't need to stick around for longer. And this one's going to be quite huge because it unlocks Golden God. And I know I've talked about this a lot in the leak and reveal videos before this. Golden God lets you high alchemy stuff with no rune cost. It gives you slightly more gold than what the item is typically worth when alching, and it also gives you a chance to save the item as you're alching it. So this essentially takes care of your magic training completely. It also allows you to use gold on altars as if it was dragon bones. Now it's 20,000 gold per dragon bone, so it's a little pricey. That's okay. We'll talk about building up the cash stack here in a second. But that's also essentially solving prayer for you, and it's going to make prayer really, really fast. So now that you've got this relic available to you, the next step is building up that cash stack. And shout out to ORLP in the League's Discord for putting together this little calculation sheet for us. There's a number of ways that you can do this. By picking up random rune items and things like that and just alching them, you really can't go wrong because the alchs are free, you have a chance to save the items, they give you more value than what you typically get from the high alch, so you're almost always going to profit on stuff. But if you want to be fast without having to kind of like go anywhere, the Garden Center in Falador is going to be your place to really stop initially. You've got a breakdown here of the different bag plants that you can buy and kind of when you want to switch as you're going up the tiers. Once you get to the point where you have 2.3 mil gold, then you're going to switch over to one of the stonemason shops. There's one in Keldegrim, and there's also one in Barlamore, so just pick your favorite. And once you get over 100 mil, buy a big stack of either magic stones or marble blocks so you can kind of keep chugging through. You can chance it on condensed gold if you want, but I think it'll be a little while before we go back there. And that'll just let your cash stack slowly build up. You're also going to passively pick up the tile to alch anything that's greater than 30k value, which gives you Production Prodigy. Production Prodigy is not going to do anything super crazy for us, but it does make skilling a lot easier, so it is going to help later on. Right now, it's just more of a bonus for us because we're already alching a bunch of stuff. Now we are moving on to Temperos. Now, Temperos requires 35 fishing in order to play the minigame. So if you're not quite there yet, which you probably aren't from running around, then just head over to Shiloh Village using the bank teleport. You can buy yourself some feathers from the fishing shop. It's going to be northeast of where you land in the bank, and then you can fly fish on the river until you get to 35. It'll be really quick. And also make sure to take your Animal Wrangler harpoon with you when you do Temperos, because that is going to speed it up a lot. It's going to enable you to essentially one down Temperos. So, take you like 2 minutes, because it's also going to auto cook some of the fish there. So you kind of just like go to a fishing spot in Temperos, fish the stuff, put it in the cannon. Temperos probably be down. If not, you go back to the spot, do the same thing, and then you just take out Temperos. Now, this is going to give you the crafting perk. The crafting perk allows you, again, to do XP share between one of these skills here. And this is how I would look at it. Cooking and fletching are probably the two fastest skills to train. So these are going to be kind of like your power skills. Pick one or the other. Don't pick both. If you really want like the fastest XP, do fletching, because fletching is going to be really fast, but it is a little bit more click intensive. So if you don't want to deal with the click intensiveness of training fletching, you can go for cooking as well. Both will serve the same purpose. Now, of the rest of the skills that you can pick from, the Gathering Relic takes care of some of them, and so you don't see smithing in here. Smithing doesn't really have much of a use either on the board for what we have. So it's sort of solved. If you really wanted to train it, there's other ways to train it, which leaves you with 2 out of these 4. Now, Herblore and Construction are probably the 2 that I would recommend, and this is going to help you with some other tiles and also make your life easier later on in the GridMaster. You can maybe take crafting over Herblore because Herblore is going to be fairly easy to train, but the same thing can be said for crafting. Personally, I'd prefer these 2. I would 100% take Construction because although Construction is going to be fast, we don't get a lot of help training it until later on. And so being able to train something like fletching, which is really fast, and help Construction get into those higher levels and make it easier for you to train, I think that's the way to go. I did put runecrafting up here as well, but runecrafting doesn't have a tile. So, besides maybe getting some total levels, it's not actually that useful to pick up runecrafting here. But if you want 99 runecrafting for the memes, you totally could. But for the sake of this path, I'm going to assume that you're taking fletching and you're also taking Herblore and Construction. And again, if you took some other things, it's okay. There is some flexibility in how this path works out. It just might make some of these tasks a little harder. Now, at some point during this, you're probably going to pass the 500 total task. Just hold. Don't use the lamp yet. You don't need to worry about it. You don't have to claim it. We're going to get an extra XP boost or 2 as we're kind of continuing through some of these tasks, so you can claim it after we've gotten through those. So I'll circle back to it. Well, I'll give it a shout out once we do. Right, so now we're done with Temperos, and we're moving on. For cleaning 3 herbs, we're going to get the Friendly Forager Relic. And this just sort of lets you passively build up herbs as you're using your gathering tools. It's not a bad thing to have, and this can help us a little bit later as well. Not going to be super important outside of getting, a handful of herbs on each of them just so you can make the different potions. Now, for getting 3 grimy herbs, since we already have dodgy deals, just run over to the ham members. If you teleport to the Drainer Bank, you can run over there, you get into the hideout. You've got AoE pickpocketing. They drop a lot of the low-level herbs. And since Production Prodigy already has a boost for you, even if you don't have any shared XP in Herblore, you'll be able to clean anything that they drop. So you'll get like a dozen Guams or a dozen Marintils noted as you're pickpocketing them. Just go back to the bank, unnote them, and clean 3 of them. That'll complete this task for you. While you're over here in Draenor, go ahead and complete the Vampire Slayer quest as well. Hopefully you're using Runelight, you've got Quest Helper. There's a couple of teleports you can do during the quest, so, obviously teleporting to Draenor to kind of start this quest, teleporting over to Varrock at one of the banks, so you can get to the bar and get that done faster, and then coming back. Don't forget your hammer. You're gonna need a hammer. You don't have one in your inventory. If you don't have garlic, you can pick up garlic when you're starting the quest upstairs in the cabinet of that building. A hammer, you should have one in your bank from when you spawned. If not, you can buy one at the general store in Varrock as you're running over to the bar. You're gonna need all of that. Then you'll be able to finish the quest in Draenor Manor. Once you do, that will complete a row. You do want to make sure to claim the XP multiplier. It's not automatically there for you, so don't forget to claim it. And also, completing that quest is going to complete the entire vampire storyline for you. So you'll have access to things like Darkmire. Not going to matter to us right now, but may help us a little bit later. So I'll circle back and talk about it. The last thing that we've got on this, the next thing that we're going to be working on is killing the Lesser Demon. If you don't have a lot of runes on you, you should have a lot of money, so you can go to Varrock, and you can buy some runes from the rune shop there, or, go to your other favorite rune shop. Doesn't really matter. You're not going to need a lot of casts. The Lesser Demon in the Wizard's Tower is going to have a weakness to water, so any water spell is going to serve you pretty well. You should have a decent magic level since you've been alching things continuously. So maybe you can pick up some Death Runes and use blast spells on it. If you need to get over there, you can use the fairy ring to the Wizard's Tower, which is going to be code DIS. That'll put you right behind there. And let's just say you won't have to worry about a line. You could do it. Completing this gives you the minimum potential relic, and this just kind of makes your minimum hit a little bit higher. You're always going to be hitting 5s whenever you do hit. It's not going to be anything crazy, but it is going to help ramp your damage just a little bit. Nice, we are moving along swiftly. This game mode is super fast, man. I'm sure a lot of you who are playing the game mode have already completed all of this stuff. Next up, we have killing an Ogress Warrior. And I do recommend the Warriors, not the Shamans. The Shamans are the ones who use magic, and they can hit a lot, and you probably don't have a lot of HP right now. So you can safe spot the Warriors. When you go down here, next to the ladder, just don't walk past the rocks. You'll understand when you're there what that looks like. Don't walk past the rocks. Don't do it. Don't walk past the rocks. Say it a couple more times for you. Don't you walk past those rocks. The Shamans are going to one-shot you, man. It's no joke. Anyway. Totally didn't die there. Totally not embarrassing. You can come down to where these guys live by using the teleport mushroom to the spirit trees. Use the spirit tree that's going to come into Ugantoth? Golly, I don't actually know what the place is called. It's the weird looking one at the bottom. None of the Nomi locations. You're trying to come down to the south of the troll area, the south of the ogre area. God, I probably butchered that name horribly. Anyway, when you land at the tree, you just run a little bit northeast. You'll see the dungeon entrance there. Don't run past the rocks. You just want to aggro a warrior. You're still using magic. I don't think it matters what spell. And take one of those down. Now, taking one of them down is going to give you the combatant perk. It's going to let you pick 3 of your combat skills to give an XP share to. So again, with all of the XP shares, these are really where the decisions are made. Now, you've already got magic covered. HP is going to be passively training regardless of what you're doing for combat. So you're kind of left with these 5. Now, because we have Golden God, I'd recommend Prayer as one of them. You could do magic and kind of passively share XP from the alching with other skills, but it is going to be a little slow. Whereas Prayer, you've got this huge stack of cash. Eventually, you're going to be able to just train Prayer up to 99 super fast. I mean, you could do it already if you wanted to. I don't think you really have to wait for the extra XP multipliers. but I would, just because it'll make it a little bit faster. Kind of up to you. We'll talk about prayer here shortly. Now, what you want to pair prayer with, you kind of have two options. You can either do strength and range to kind of up your combat abilities quickly, or you can do attack and defense, because you may not be training attack and defense very much as you're going through GridMaster. So if you want to avoid training attack and defense in combat, you can take those. If you want to kind of ramp up your combat ability, take strength and range. Personally, I think strength and range is probably the way to go. I guess you could do a combination of a couple of these as long as prayer is the one that you're taking as kind of like the power skill. But the reason I think taking strength and range is going to be more helpful is because GridMaster is already a very fast mode, and that's just going to help accelerate you into some of the PVM-related tasks a little bit more. Plus, we're eventually going to pick up the Coppish Blade, which doesn't have an attack requirement, so you're going to have a really good melee weapon pretty quickly. There's also a Drygore Blowpipe out there, so you're also going to get a pretty strong range weapon. Not that attack and defense don't have their uses, defense especially will have some use a little bit later, but I digress. I would recommend doing these two. That's what I'm going to assume going forward. If you took another combination, again, you don't have to worry. There is some flexibility. It just might mean you have to train some of these combats up a little bit, as we get a little farther into the route. Now, once you've made the selection, we're going to take a brief stop in over at the ZMI altar. Because you've got Golden God, you can use those coins on an altar, and it gives you a lot of XP. Now, your first thought might be, let me go to a Chaos altar in the wilderness. But many of the Chaos altars in the game are actually coded in the same way. I know that this one is. So, if you teleport using your mushroom to the tree that's south of Ardoin, then you can run to the west, and before you go down to where the ZMI altar is, you'll see a prayer altar there. You can use bones on that one. Now, if you have a lot of cash, and you don't want to wait for the XP multipliers, you can actually get 99 prayer here. We really only need to get up to level 40 ranged, which will be like level 43, 50-ish prayer. That will end up giving you protection prayers, and we are going to need level 40 range later to train fletching up. But because it's so fast, I mean, you could stop in here, you pick up 99 prayer, it'll also give you 92 strength and 92 range, so you will already be like crazy strong at that point. So your call on that one. Doesn't really matter either way. But you do want to make sure that you get level 40 in range, so keep an eye on that one. Once you've got that, next up on our list is killing Bryophyta. Now, you do have to get a Mossy Key. The Wilderness has the best drop rate, so that's this first map that I have showing here. They're just north of where the Black Chins are. The easiest way to get here is to use Banker's Heist to teleport to Ferox Enclave and then just run north. Supposedly, Mossy Keys have an increased drop rate. We do have that 8 times drop rate available to us. If you get lucky out here, maybe you get it in a couple of kills. Moss Giants are weak to fire spells, so magic is probably the way to go still. Now, if it looks a little crowded out here, I put a couple other spots that you can go check. There is a spot south of Soul Wars on the Isle of Souls, so you can get to this by going to Edgeville, going through the portal, and just kind of running south down to here. And another spot is west of Camtorum in Varlamore. This one's a little bit out of the way to get to, because we don't have a good teleport, but you can run here. So if these other two options are too busy for you, you can come out here. That way you're able to farm Moss Giants. Once you've got that key, head over to Bryophyta. She's in the Varrock sewers. You do need a slash weapon, so just be aware of that. Don't go down there without something. You can use your lumberjack axe that you got from those early gathering relic choices, or if you want to pick up like a bronze sword that you spawned into the game with, you can use that as well. Bryophyta is going to be really easy for you to take down with fire spells. You're already probably pretty stacked at this point. And by taking her out, that is going to complete another row. So make sure to get your XP multiplier. That's also going to give you the Tier 1 combat masteries. Now, Tier 1 combat masteries aren't anything super crazy. Probably the biggest thing that you're picking up here is a 95% ammo save, and that also counts for runes and charges. So you almost no longer need ammo at that point. You just carry a little bit with you, and it'll last a long time. It's also going to increase your damage a little bit for each style. They work in a little bit of a different way for each of them, but in general, your damage just goes up a little bit. Now, at this point, you've kind of gotten access to all of the early XP multipliers, so this is a great time to use that XP lamp, and you have a couple of options. You could use it on one of these trioed skills that you got from the Gathering perk. If I had to pick, maybe Hunter, but any of these will really do, because this 25k XP is going to be impacted by the XP multiplier, so you're getting quite a lot. Somewhere between 175k and what, 250k, depending on where you're at with the XP multipliers. So this is going to get you well above level 50. And if you use it one of these skills, the other two will get half of it as well. So you can really get a lot of XP if you put them over in one of these skills. Now, I don't know if that would be my first choice, just because there's other tiles on the board that you have to worry about. And personally, I think having these three grouped together, they're already going to be pretty easy to train, so I don't know if I would dump a huge amount of XP into one of these. So looking at the individual skills, which I know might not feel efficient because you're getting less XP overall, but it's going to help you with some other tiles. Defense is a potential candidate for you because you may need to get up to a high defense level, like 70, for some of the tiles. Farming is also another one that doesn't really have good coverage and kind of requires farming in order to make farming good. I know that sounds weird, but we just don't have any other like relics or perks that are really going to help with farming until you've done some farming, and we'll talk about it as we get farther into the tasks. But of these two, personally, I think farming's actually a really good one to use this XP lamp in. Defense, I would probably put as like the second best. You could also put it in one of these other three skills. Now, as I've already said, runecrafting doesn't have a lot of use here, so I don't know if I love it, but you could use it for some total levels. Cooking is already going to be really fast, but this would speed it up. You can see here our next tile is going to be related to cooking a shark. So while you don't need to use it in this, if you really don't like the idea of using it in either defense or farming, you could use it in cooking. I'm not necessarily recommending that, though. I would still take either of these two over it. And kind of the same deal with Slayer. If you wanted to rush Slayer a little bit, you could. Like I spoke about before, Slayer, you have other options, so I don't think it's a super great use of the lamp here for kind of the same reason. You're going to be able to train this passively up later on. But all right, now you've used that lamp. This is where we've got a couple of those side tasks coming up. Now, it may be a little early. Both of these tasks relate to construction. You've got getting 99 construction, making a demonic throne, and putting a skill cape in your player-owned house. Now, you might say, hey, that is pretty early. Why would we do this now? Your XP rates are already really, really fast. And if you did take fletching earlier, fletching is crazy fast to train, which is going to be free 99 construction, 99 herb lore for you. You can also just get up to 99 fletching, be at 92 construction, and then make one of the weaker thrones for XP using like a demon butler or something. Either way, it's going to be really fast. And the benefit of doing this here is you get the Compish Blade as your melee weapon. Like, you haven't even killed Scurius yet. You're going to be taking Scurius on with the Compish Blade if you do this. And man, I mean, you're going to be able to blow away everything in PvM if you do this right now. And assuming that you've gotten 99 in, one of these skills, you've got a skill cape, you might as well put it in your house, which gives you this reflection relic here, reflecting back 25% of the damage that you're going to take. And again, this is just going to help you tremendously with all of the PvM stuff that you're going to have to do later on. So I think this is a perfect time to do it. You could wait a little bit for when we get a few of the other XP multipliers. So I'll circle back and talk about it one more time. But you can definitely do it here. It's fast enough. You're not going to feel bad if you do it here. I'll say that much. Now, in case you're wondering, how on earth am I going to get 99 fletching this early? You've got that infinite stack of cash that's been glowing around over there in your inventory. And if you haven't been watching the leak videos, this was one of the shops that I mentioned. This is the arrow shop in the ranging guild. Now, you do need 40 range. That's why we picked it up a little bit earlier. But as you can see, this shop sells arrow shafts and it sells all of these different arrow tips. Now, you do have to get the feathers yourself, but you do have production prodigy. So, like, you're going to be able to slap the arrows together quite quickly because you do them in the full, like, 10 bunch that you would normally take time to do. That's why fletching is so fast. It's also why I don't think you really need to wait for another XP multiplier, but maybe give it a little bit of a shot, get some levels in there, see how you're feeling. Because you can also just get fletching up quite a ways, and then as you get into the higher levels of construction, just shift over and do actual construction training with that Demon Butler. Next up, we have got the task of cooking a shark with a chef's hat. Now, this does require 80 cooking, but because you have Production Prodigy, you only have to get to 68 cooking, so it's really not a very high level for how fast all of these XP rates are. And because you've got all of that money from Golden Gods sitting in your inventory, the easiest way to train your cooking is going to be by teleporting up to the Piscarilius Bank and running over to this food shop here. You can buy stuff noted. They sell raw anchovies all the way up to raw sharks, so it doesn't matter what your cooking level is. You should be able to buy something that you can cook. Just go down this list, get a stack of each of these, you'll be good to go. 68's not going to take you very long. Now, if you're looking for a range that's close to a bank that isn't Hosidius, because you can't use the Hosidius Kitchen until you've completed the Kuran Diary, which you probably don't want to do right now, you can use the one that is in Catherby. It's not crazy close, but it's close enough. It's a quick little run kind of around the bank wall, around the house wall, using the range and coming back. So it's not too terrible, and because level 68 with all these XP boosts in here, it's not going to take you that many inventories. It should be fine. Now, for the chef's hat itself, Shazian actually has a clothing shop that sells them. It's a stock of 4. If you teleport to the Shazian Bank and run to the east, you'll find the fancy clothes store, and you can just buy a chef's hat there. And then you're off to the races. Cook the shark, you get a corrupted shark. That thing is going to be essentially just a infinite use 20 heal, and that heal is going to get better as we complete more tasks. Whew, you still with me? We're almost done with the easy stuff. And actually, this path is going to get, maybe not easier, but less complex, less decision-making the farther along that we go. So last on the easy stuff list is going to be Scurious. Now, if you're not familiar where Scurious is, you teleport using that bank heist over to the Varrock East Bank. You run up north, there'll be an entrance to the sewer. Once you come down here, he'll be off to the east in this room here. Make sure to select a private instance. You can right-click the railing as you climb over. If you do the group instance, he's going to have more health. He's going to be tougher. If you have the Coppish Blade, it probably won't matter. But if you're going in there without the Coppish Blade, you'll want him to be less tanky, that's for sure. Also, if you aren't bringing the Coppish Blade, make sure to pick up some knives of some kind. Since you were doing mining earlier when you're on your way to that gold ore, you probably have some bars in the bank that are either like bronze or iron or steel. Just make some steel knives. You shouldn't need too many of them because you already have the ammo save, but this will help you with the little rats that he summons if you're struggling to take down Scurious. One other thing that I have on here you may be curious about, this other arrow right here. As you're running through the bank, you can actually stop in and talk with the museum curator that's kind of like right here in the corner. She'll give you some XP drops from some of those auto-completed quests and kudos that we have. So it doesn't hurt to come through and pick this up. One of the drops should be crafting XP. If you don't see that, you can run up to the second floor. The first guy that you see, you talk to him. You talk to him about some of those quests, and then you go back downstairs and talk to this curator lady. She should give you more XP. Now, all of that said, once you've beaten Scurious, you now unlock your second mastery, which is going to give you 20% more healing. So that infinite shark that you got earlier, it should now heal 24, which is pretty cool. And with the tier 2 mastery, you're also going to do a little bit more damage. Every tier of the mastery basically gives you a little bit more damage. Oh my gosh, are we speedrunning this game mode yet? Goodness gracious. How far in are we? What is this, like 20 minutes already? So, if you've done everything up to this point that I've talked about, this is how your board should be looking. And now we are moving on to some of the medium stuffs, which includes things like a couple of XP multipliers, all of the remaining mastery points, grimoire, infinite potions, all kinds of things that we'll talk about as we're getting through there. Now, first things first, you're crazy powerful. Go to Barrows. If you don't know how to get to Barrows, you can use the group tele, go to Shades of Morton. You should already have access to this because you completed Vampire Slayer earlier on, and you just run to the east to go to Barrows. If you need a spade because you didn't bring one, there should be one in this shack right here before you go in, so you're able to dig in the mounds. Now, the reason we're going to Barrows so early is because the reward is an XP multiplier, and we've got a lot of skilling things that we can do in this tier of stuff. Now, the task itself is to loot the Barrows chest while you have a Barrows item equipped. So, depending on your luck, depending on what items you pull, you may or may not have the combat stats to actually equip them. So if you do need to get some defense levels or some attack levels, I'd highly recommend going and training in the Revenant Cave because we're going to need some magic logs later, and Revenants have magic logs on their table. So that would be a nice, like, 2 birds, 1 stone situation for you. You don't necessarily have to do that. You could just go and train on something like Scurious as well. Or if you really don't want to go train, you can go for another Barrows item until you get one that you can actually wield. The problem is, you have to get the one that you can wield, and then you have to go back and you have to loot the chest and get another one while wielding the item. So you're probably not going to be doing a ton of Barrows, but you may end up having to send like 5 or 10 here, depending on how you end up wanting to handle the item drops. But since it is 8 times drop rate for all of these rare items, I mean, You're getting like 1 in every 3 or something around there. So you should get them pretty quick. Maybe it's 1 in 2. It's going to be really frequent, so you're not going to have to do a lot of barrows. Now, if you went and you did the construction piece that I talked about earlier, you may also want to go through and do this task here, which is creating a Zamorak brew next to the Chaos Altar in Varrock. This is the one that is southeast. So if you use Bank Heist, you can teleport to the Varrock East Bank, run a little bit south. You'll see the prayer altar there. That's the one it's talking about. Now, a Zamorak brew isn't a really common potion, so you may not be familiar with it. You need a Torstal and you need Jenga berries. Now, because we picked up Friendly Forager earlier, you should check your herb pouch because you may have a Torstal. If you don't, go in like chop a tree, mine some rocks, maybe go fishing a little bit, because Friendly Forager will let you pick up a random herb, and eventually it's going to pick up a Torstal. It'll probably be pretty quick. I imagine at worst, maybe a few minutes. So that'll give you the herb for the potion. Jenga berries, you can get on this island that's to the west of Yanil, and you do have to be wearing Zamorak monk robes in order to complete this tile. So if you want to get that full set, we can run back over here to this altar that we were using to train prayer earlier. This is another great opportunity to train up to 99. You did pick up an extra XP multiplier or 2 since that last opportunity, so if you hadn't done it yet, now's the time to do it. You probably have a huge cash stack as well from Golden God just like constantly chugging through. Now, the cool reward that we get for this tile is the Bottomless Brew. Essentially makes all of your potions infinite, so you'll only ever have to make your potions once, and that's it. You just take them with you, you sip them, they never go down. May also be some interesting interactions for things like TOA or Chambers, where you have some like in-raid potions that you're using. Same with like Corrupted Gauntlet as well. So it works with all of those potions. Kind of cool. Now, I do have a slightly altered path that you can take. You'll notice that the order has changed a little bit. And the reason being is because we have an XP multiplier hidden behind taking down the Moons of Peril. Now, this is more so if you feel like you're competent with taking on Jad, going for a Fire Cape. I know not everybody feels as confident going for a Fire Cape. I promise you, you're really strong right now if you've done everything that we've talked about. So even just taking the Koppish in there, you've got like infinite potions. You should have a spread of herbs that you can pull from, make like a prayer potion, make a boosting potion. So at this point, you can take on that Fire Cape with pretty much no issues. But if you are nervous about it, you can skip this. I will get back to kind of like the normal path here in a second. But if you do go through with this, taking down Jad completes the Barlamore quest line, which will mean you can access moons. Now, while you're here getting your Fire Cape, you might as well pick up the Slayer perk by going into the Inferno, killing a major there, because this is going to start training up your Slayer passively, which you probably want. And this is also going to give you a damage boost, potentially, if you want to go for like a Black Mask, because the Slayer perk tends to work on pretty much everything. So if you want kind of like a little side quest, you can go pick up a Black Mask after you've done this, and it will help you do more damage just overall. You definitely don't have to, but I would still at least go into the Inferno and kill the Major while you're over there getting the Fire Cape, because might as well. And then, of course, because the quests are all auto-completed, that'll give you access to moons. You don't have to do that quest yourself. And moons has that XP multiplier behind it, so that will help with some of the skilling tasks. But back over to the sort of normal path. If you don't feel like you can go and get that Fire Cape, we'll circle back and we'll do it in a little bit. We are looking at these 3 skilling tasks here. We've got barehanding a Sunlight Moth, which takes level 75 Hunter. We've got completing a Magic Totem in the Fletching minigame, which is going to take, with the Production Prodigy boost, level 68 Fletching, and some Magic Logs. So if you didn't get those earlier, we're going to have to circle back. And then checking a Grown Fruit Tree. This one's probably the most annoying out of the 3 of them, really. But let's talk about each of these. So to get your Hunter up, you're probably already at a decent Hunter level if you took the spread of skills that I talked about earlier. So you might be able to just go straight to Grey Chins. My personal pick for a spot to train that up is going to be Land's End. There's a bank here in Land's End, and then you just run north. You're able to get access to those chins. I also think there's some box traps hidden around in one of the crates over here. But if you do need box traps and you don't want to go picking around through the crates, you can teleport to Yanil, run to the Hunter shop, pick up a couple of them, and then come back up here. You don't have to complete Eagle's Peak in order to use those, so it's fair game. You can just hunt them straight off the bat. No questing required. Once you do have that level 75, go over to Varlamore. South of the Hunter's Guild, you'll see Sunlight Moths flying around. You just have to catch one of them, and that is going to give you this tile here. Now, the reward is nothing crazy for us at the moment, but it does complete Dragon Slayer 2, so you get access to things like the Myths Guild. You'll be able to fight Vorkath. There's probably some other benefits that you're getting out of this as well, but it's more of like a passive piece. You don't have to worry about like something specific that you're getting from this. Now, as with the fletching minigame, you can use any of the totems. Probably the easiest would be teleporting to Auburnvale and running west from this bank up to the tutorial area where you make a totem, but you are going to need at least 5 magic logs. Now, there's a couple of ways that you could do this. You could go woodcutting. It is going to take 75 woodcutting in order for you to actually cut magic logs, so it's a little bit high up there, but if you need some AFK, it's not a terrible option. As I mentioned before, Revenants are really good as well, and if you can't be bothered to both of those and you love Implings, I don't know who you are that loves Implings. If you want to go to Puro, you can catch Nature Implings. They do have a 1 in 10 chance of dropping a magic log, so you're going to have to hunt like quite a few Nature Implings if you do that. But maybe you don't love Revs, maybe you don't want a woodcut. I mean, maybe you're Implings only. Good luck out there. Once you've got those magic logs, though, you'll be able to build a full totem with them. You'll be able to complete this tile here. And this one is going to give you the Devil's Element, which is one of the Echo items from last year. Now, the Devil's Element just gives you a little bit of magic percentage as your shield slot. It's going to make elemental weaknesses even larger against stuff. So it's not a bad pickup for some of the PVM that you're going to do if you want to use magic and they have a magic weakness. But in terms of sort of the tasks that are here, you're probably not going to get that much use out of it. And the last one of this trio, checking the grown fruit tree. Fruit tree seeds are kind of a pain in the butt to collect. So I put a couple different options here for you to kind of think about. And mammoths are probably the easiest recommendation out of this list. It's not like they drop them super common, but they do drop some of those low-level fruit trees at about 1 in 30, give or take, depending on what the seed is. They're right next to the Ferox Enclave, so if you teleport out there and you run southeast, you should see them. There's just a ton of them there, like 10 or 15 of them. Pretty easy to kill. You're really strong at this point, especially if you got the Koppish. You can just like AoE them down. It is multi out there. So I don't think it'll take you too long to get a fruit tree seed. Now, if you don't want to do that, woodcutting for bird's nest can be a way to get it, or also going to the mole. Now, the problem with the mole is if you don't have the diary done for Falador, kind of a pain in the butt to kill, so I'm not sure I would go and do that personally, but a couple of options there for you. Same with Nature Implings. They also have a chance at giving some of those low-level fruit tree seeds. So, I mean, if you did that for the magic logs, yeah, maybe you have some already. I still wouldn't recommend doing Implings, dude. Puro sucks. Puro's awful, dude. Now, if you didn't use the lamp earlier on farming, you may need to train up farming. Those low-level fruit trees, I mean, you're only having to get to like level 20, level 30, maybe level 40 at best. So it really shouldn't take you too long. You can just plant things in allotments. Farming ticks are going to be 5 times faster, so it's going to be pretty quick either way. But this is why I would recommend using that lamp from earlier in farming, because it'll kind of smooth out right here. And I think training things like defense and attack are a little bit easier than doing early farming. Now, the reward that you're going to get from checking the fruit tree is a farming-related relic. It's going to make farming instantaneous. It's going to increase the yields for you. Sadly, farming doesn't have that much of a use, but if you haven't trained Herblore yet to do that potion task, now is a good time to do that. Now, this is where things get a little bit serious. Bear with me. I know that this is a high requirement. However, if you did pick Agility, Hunter, and Thieving all together, you should have at least a decent agility level right now. And Thieving is quite good for XP, and Hunter is really good once you get up to things like Red Chins and Black Chins because of Animal Wrangler. So I actually don't think it's going to be all that difficult to get up to level 92 agility here. You can put it on pause if you want until after you get that XP multiplier from doing the Moon's boss. It'll help a little bit. But ultimately, you're going to have to get to level 92 if you want to complete all the tiles. Now, what this tile is completing the 5th floor of the Hallowed Sepulchre. And if I hadn't lost you already at the level 92 agility, I'm sure the rest of you checked out. A lot of people don't like the Hallowed Sepulchre. They find it's really difficult, especially on the 5th floor. One trick to getting that floor down is using these tokens that you can buy from the reward shop. They increase the amount of time on the clock by a minute. There's no limit to how many of these you can use in a run. So if you are someone who struggles with completing the Hallowed Sepulchre, go through those early floors, loot a couple of the reward chests that you can on your way down. You'll get some of the tokens that you can use in the shop to buy these, and just take in like 5 or 10 of them. You know, if you have like 15 or 20 minutes to clear the Hallowed Sepulchre, I think everyone can do it. I know the end is a little tough, but you can essentially have infinite time if you want to. Now, the reward for this is completing all of the achievement diaries, and that does include being able to claim all of the XP lamps. So when I was talking about flexibility before, these XP lamps are going to kind of help you smooth out any areas that you're currently struggling with. There's nowhere in particular that I'd recommend putting these, so just kind of use them at your discretion. Maybe combats, you want to kind of get that attack and defense up without having to train it. Maybe you want to use it on crafting, which is the next activity over here. It's kind of up to you. There's a lot of diaries and there's a lot of lamps. You also don't even have to use them right now. You can leave them sitting there for if you run into things later that you want to do, then you have all this XP available to you. It is going to be a lot of XP just kind of sitting in these lamps. And I'll probably talk about this in a little bit as well, because we're going to have another XP lamp come up for this total level soon. But I digress. The next task here is equipping an Amulet of Fury. You're going to need to get to level 78 crafting. If you don't want to use the lamps over here on crafting, crafting is going to be pretty quick to train anyway. You can get this by just cutting gems, and there are a lot of gem shops in the game. The one that I have highlighted here is in Alderaan, so if you teleport to the bank in Alderaan, run northeast, you'll be able to buy up to rubies. And because you can buy things noted and you have all this money, just get a stack of like 500 gems. That'll probably get you level 78. Plus with Production Prodigy, you're able to really churn through those. So you get your gems, go to a bank, and then you just kind of have to chug through those things. You'll get the crafting XP really quickly. Once you've got the level required, if you're not familiar, you can get an Onyx in the Tazar City. So taking the fairy ring over here, running over to this mage shop, typically you'd sell Chaos Runes through this. You can get them from any of your favorite rune shop. I'd actually recommend Death Runes because you probably have so much money, and it does give you a little bit more Tokkul per sell. So, pick up a bunch of Death Runes, sell them here, get enough Tokkul to buy an Onyx up at the shop in the north. Once you've done that, you're able to create your Fury. That is going to complete the Desert Treasure 2 questline. And again, that doesn't really do anything too wild for us right now, but it is going to help us with one of the tasks later. Now, at this point, you've probably crossed the threshold of 1,500 total, which is this task right here. And that is going to reward you a 100k XP lamp. And again, much like the achievement diary lamps in that first one that we used, it is impacted by the XP multiplier. So you can use it here. You can wait till you get that other XP multiplier. Again, I don't think that there's like a ton of crazy options for us to use XP on. Just use it to kind of round out what you're doing in the game. And if you skipped over any of the other skilling tasks before, you can dump XP into those as well. So you have a lot of options with this. Kind of your call on where you want to put it. Now, as for the rest of the tasks in the medium stuff, I did put them in an order, and this will likely be the order that I go through them in, but you don't have to. It's really flexible on what you want to do. Now, of these remaining tasks, the ones here on the left are kind of the ones you want to prioritize because there's some dependencies with the tasks on the right. So to talk through each of these really quickly, all of the stuff on the left, you just have to defeat it. So we've got defeating the Calphite Queen, gives you the Drygor Blowpipe. This thing is like a ranged fang. It does double accuracy rolls, meaning it basically always hits. It's going to be a really strong ranged weapon for you. We've got defeating Jad, getting the Fire Cape. That's going to unlock that Moon's quest line. And also defeating the Major in the Inferno, giving you that Slayer perk. Again, if you want that little bit of a side quest, go and get a Black Mask. That'll help you deal more damage to all of this other stuff besides Corrupted Gauntlet, because you can't take the mask in there. You don't have to, but this will also mean that you're getting Slayer experience as you go through and do a lot of these bosses, so that'll be pretty cool. Now, of the rest of these, we've got defeating a Lizardman in the Lizardman Temple, which gives you the Elf quest line, getting access to Prif, and the Corrupted Gauntlet. We've got defeating Zulrah with the Blowpipe, and the Drygor Blowpipe does count. That is going to complete Monkey Madness and all of the prerequisite quests. Getting a rare drop from Huey Coddle is going to give you Wild Gothic Sleeps. So being able to get things like the Tormented Demon Weapons, the Tormented Synapses. That'll help later with something like Yama, which is going to be a tile, but we'll talk about that. We also have Moons over here, that XP multiplier I've been talking about so much. Wearing a rare God Wars item. This can be from any of the God Wars bosses. So it doesn't really matter. You just go whichever one you feel is easiest for you. This is going to give you Total Recall, which is a relic that gives you an item that allows you to save your spot wherever you're standing. It'll also save your HP, your prayer, your special attack. So it's making that Compish Blade really, really strong in any of these non-instance bosses. It does not save your stats, but you already have infinite potions. So, that's not really going to be an issue for you. And the last two that we've got here, we've got getting a rare drop from Vorkath. Now, I will say Vorkath's rare drops are kind of hard to come by, even at 8 times. And depending on how strong you feel, you may not want to go and farm out a lot of Vorkath. Even if the head drop counts for him, that's still potentially 1 out of 50. And even with the 8x rate, that's what, 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, somewhere in that ballpark. It is a couple of Vorkath kills, and Vorkath may not feel like the easiest thing to do. You can't always put this one off for later. The reward that Vorkath gives is the Grimoire, which is going to give you upgraded prayers, so the range and the mage prayers that you typically get from Chambers of Xeric, so just more DPS for you. It's also giving you spellbook swaps, so you're able to do things like Vengeance and start reflecting more damage. It's not like the biggest reward, so see how you're feeling about Vorkath. You may skip this one and save it for later. And then, of course, the Corrupted Gauntlet is this last thing here. It's just defeating the Corrupted Gauntlet. Luckily, you don't have to get a rare item from it. But I know a lot of people are scared about the Corrupted Gauntlet. Now, let me just say, again, you are really, really strong already. You've got a couple tiers worth of masteries under your belt. You've got infinite potions, which is going to work on the potion that you make in the Corrupted Gauntlet. You've got higher healing food because of that 20% extra healing. You've got all of these extra damage stack things in there from both the masteries and some of the unlocks that we've got. So even though you can't really take anything into the Corrupted Gauntlet, you'll probably be able to do it, even if it takes you a couple of tries. And the reward that you're getting is Banker's Note. Now, Banker's Note probably isn't that crazy since we have, infinite food and infinite potions already, which is why I have it tacked on here at the end. It can help you with skilling, but there's not a lot of skilling tasks that we haven't already done. And honestly, for how fast the XP is, you kind of don't even need it. But if you didn't get the construction piece earlier, maybe because you didn't pick construction as one of the skills, after Banker's Note, you're going to have a really easy time training that up using some of the more expensive construction methods. Like making thrones, you don't have to worry about the butler. You just have your stack of magic stones in your inventory. You have Banker's Note, you unnote them, you build the throne. So you can kind of pick up the construction piece here, which is going to allow you to get the Coppish Blade if you haven't had it already. So a little unfortunate if you didn't have it already, because a lot of bossing. But don't worry, there's more bossing to come, because that's the end of the medium stuff. Now, completing all of the medium stuff will get you up to the Tier 6 Mastery, because the rest of these are all in column or row rewards. And just to speak real quick on what each of these is going to do, Tier 3 is giving you a little bit faster attack speed and double accuracy, so you're going to be hitting a bit more. Tier 4 is giving you passive healing based on the damage that you're doing, and it's also going to reduce the overall damage that you take by 15%. Tier 5 is giving you even faster attack speed. This is where 5-tick weapons become absolutely crazy, so things like a zombie axe can be really good. I mean, if you got the Coppish Blade, it'll still be really good, don't worry. Mega Rares will also be really good at this tier, and you will also get a passive that increases the amount of prayer points that you get back by 25% when you use things like prayer potions or prayer restores or what have you. And lastly, Tier 6 is giving you even more damage and 60% prayer penetration, so it's going to make farming things that pray, like Corrupted Gauntlet or Tormented Demons, a little bit easier, because now you don't have to worry about switching attack styles. Now, if at any point in this medium stuff you feel like you're struggling, see which rows you can complete, because these two center columns, the tasks in here aren't particularly challenging in terms of a PVM sense, so you can get yourself up to Tier 4 masteries before taking on some of the tougher things like Corrupted Gauntlet or Vorkath, so that'll help you quite a bit. You can even pick these up before doing things like Calphite Queen if you're really worried. Same deal with something like Zulrah. But once you've gotten through all of the tiers, you're maxed out in the combat masteries, you're really, really, really strong. Which brings you into the remaining tasks, good luck stuffs. It's the hard stuff, all right? This is the stuff everybody was fearing, everything that people were worrying about. Some of it is worse than others, so let's talk about it a little bit. Now, with these, there's no real particular order that you have to go in. I've kind of front-loaded it so you get the XP multiplier and you get all of the Mega Rares a little bit sooner. But with these, the row rewards, while they're good, they're nothing like, you're not really going to need them, I think. You've got enough power with what you have unlocked already. So unless there's something specific in the rows or columns that you want to unlock, you don't really have to go for those things either. Now, to talk about each of these tasks, all 4 of these are going to be obtaining a rare from the listed boss. So we've got obtaining a rare from Tombs of a Masket, one of the raids. This is going to give you a Mega Rare weapon scroll. So you're going to get a choice of one of your Mega Rares. probably go for the T-bow first because that's going to help you with a lot of the bosses. If you're struggling in the previous section, you can even come over and do a Tombs of a Mascot raid a little bit sooner and pick up a T-bow because that's going to help with a lot of those bosses as well. Then we have got getting a rare from Araxor. That has the last XP multiplier in here, another plus 200%. Now, Araxor does have a pretty high Slayer requirement, so you may or may not have this, but also the XP multiplier at this point doesn't matter that much for you, so if you want to skip it, you totally can. And then if you want the other mega rares, you can get a rare from both of the other raids. Now, Theater of Blood, you kind of need a group to run through. If you don't have a group, I wouldn't worry about it too much, because you really don't need all 3 of the mega rares. Honestly, you kind of don't even need one of them. You're going to be really strong either way. But if you want them, you get a mega rare scroll from Chambers, you get a mega rare scroll from Theater. Your choice on what weapons you want to go at that point. Once you've got those down, we're starting to push into what I think a lot of people are going to find more challenging. We have got defeating Soul Heredit, which is going to be the Colosseum. And this one is giving you the Spec Relic. Now, because you already have Total Recall, which is saving your spec, I don't know how crazy this one's really going to be for you. Granted, it does make you have more specials in an instance, so it brings the special cost down to 20% for anything more than that. So you're going to get 5 specs out of your spec bar. It's also making your specials more accurate. Now, the Coppish Blade's already pretty accurate, so I don't know how crazy this is going to feel for you, but it is an upgrade. So if you feel confident in Soul and you find that easier, do it first. You'll get your Coppish a little bit stronger. If you're using another spec weapon, you can have that as well. Maybe you picked up a normal blowpipe from Zoran, you want a little extra healing. I don't think you'll need it, but hey, it's there for you. We've also got getting a rare drop from Yama. Now, personally, I find Yama is actually not the most challenging on this list, and the reward that he gives you is Last Stand. This is the thing that keeps you alive if you hit 0 HP. It does have a 3-minute cooldown, but man, is this a really good relic. So if you are struggling with stuff, maybe consider going and doing Yama, because Last Stand, not only does it keep you alive, it also is going to boost your damage for basically 10 seconds. So you're able to blow up a ton of stuff while this is active. Now, Yama is a little bit more on the technical side. There's a lot happening in the Yama fight. For how powerful we are, for how much damage we can dish out, I don't even know if you're going to need Demon Bane weapons to take him down. You could probably go in there with the Coppish and do a pretty good job. Last of this trio, we have finishing off Doom at level 8. I actually, kind of like the rest of these, I think Doom is likely to be one of the easier of this sort of hard bunch. Now, the reward is okay. I mean, it's best in slot boots. Don't get me wrong. Look, I know, okay, but we're talking GridMaster, all right? We got a lot of power in here. Are these boots going to change your life? Probably not for everything else that you're doing, but it is a solid upgrade. And because you have all of these like infinite supplies, doing Doom, it may not actually be that hard for you. It is level 8, but also infinite supplies, man. I mean, you're chomping down an infinite shark, drinking your infinite potions. Like, you probably got this, honestly. Now, as for the last 3 tasks, these are the ones that I know, well, really 2 of them are the ones that are making people really shake in their boots. We've got the 30-minute Inferno, and we've got defeating all 4 of the Awakened Desert Treasure 2 bosses. You're really strong in leagues. Honestly, I think the 30-minute Inferno, everyone's going to be able to do. It gives you the Guardian Relic, which is going to help you do other things. I even think you could probably do this before some of these other bosses as well, if you wanted that DPS increase. But if you're nervous on the Inferno, you wait this long, you've got a lot of power under your belt. And once you get that Guardian Relic, it can kind of help a little bit with the Desert Treasure 2 bosses. Since they're awakened, you're going to have to get the orbs. So with the 1 in 8 drop rate, you're probably having to kill the boss. You're probably having to kill each of the bosses a couple of times to get an orb. You can get the orbs from any of the bosses, so pick whichever one you find is easiest. Personally, I think farming Var Dorvis is probably the easiest. Duke is maybe second choice. Leviathan third. Whisper is awful, don't farm that one. And then as for the Awakened bosses, the only one where your powers don't help you a ton is going to be the Whisperer. Like, you have to participate in the mechanics because it has an Insanity bar. When the Insanity bar maxes out, you just die. And I don't even think that's a death that you can survive with Last Stand. So you're kind of just like out of luck with it. It might be tough. Honestly, if there's a spot on the board that people don't complete, I have a feeling it's going to be these 2, and especially this one here. Don't feel bad about it. This helmet, while it's cool, we're in the end game here. We've got a lot of power. Is this helmet going to change your world? Kind of like the boots. Probably not going to change your life that much. It is nice that it counts as a Slayer helm, but if you really want the Slayer helm, just go get a Slayer mask from Cave Horrors, You don't need to wait until you're all the way here. Now, this last task is getting 2,000 total. This one is just a bonus task. You don't have to worry about it unless you really want to. It is going to give you all of the combat masteries completed, so more XP lamps that you can use, some extra benefits in there. I don't think anything in here, really, I don't know that anything in this entire tier is that life-changing for you because you get so many powers before you get to this point. This is just if you want to complete the board. Oh, man. Talking a mile a minute, and that still was like an hour long. Holy cow. There's a lot to do, but it's also really, really quick. So again, this is the overview of that task plan. If you're needing it, you can pause here as well. Now that you kind of understand some of the rationale behind these choices. But that is all I have for you on the planning videos. I am doing a mini-series, which will be a couple episodes long, going through GridMaster. So if you want to see that, I will have it linked right here. That's the only thing I'm linking today. Cool. Thanks for watching. Oh my gosh, I gotta get back to it, man. I'm like so behind in GridMaster because this thing took me like 6 hours to put together. Oh god. Wait for me, fellas. Everybody's maxed. Hold on. I can do this. Oh, I'm not making a top 3 though, that's for sure. All right, anyway, good luck in there, everybody. I will catch you in the next one.